Well, after a week where news has been forthcoming beyond anything else, beyond anything we've really experienced, well, the weekend has slowed. I'll be honest with you. Yes, the worst advert possible for a transfer show. But there is news to discuss today. Some really positive things to talk about as well. A new link, and maybe the first signs really of one of Arsenal's bigger players being linked with a move away from the club. This is today's Arsenal transfer show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal transfer show. Oh, I did this yesterday, so you can see in the corner there, there's a little on-air sign, and I always forget to switch it on. I could do it. I'm gonna do it. Bear with me. We're going. There we go. That's a bit better. See, actually, I know that the background's a bit blurry, obviously, because of the type of camera I'm using. And it focuses me and blurs there, but it just looks a bit better, doesn't it? So, and it's just a simple slide on this chair that I've got. It's a very smooth surface to be able to roll across this morning. I've got like the other monitor here, so in the day I'm just sliding around the office doing the work that's needed. Anyway, good morning to you all. Thank you so much as always for joining and tuning in. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you have a really good start to your weekend already, of course, and that you are ready for, well, I was going to say a weekend of football because there is football on, but the big game was last night. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. We also produced a really exciting and fun episode with good friend of the channel and EAFC FIFA YouTuber Nepenthes. If you've not yet given that a watch, we had a good chat. Big Arsenal fan is Nep, so it's been on the channel before. And we had a good chat about Victor Gyökeres and Sesko and other transfers and things as well. So if you've not given that a watch, I recommend you do. It's the last upload on the channel. So go give that a listen on audio platforms or, of course, on YouTube as well. But I should tell you as well, another show you should listen to, 11 a.m. this morning. I'm going to be joining, I assume it's live. I think it's live. I'm going to be joining FK on Latte Firm. So another episode with this ugly mug that you can listen to as well if you haven't done so already over there. Make sure you're subscribed to FK's content. It's absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that show. It's been a little bit of time since I've been on with FK, so I'm looking forward to that. But good morning to you all in the chat box. Really appreciate all of you tuning in and listening. And we've got Maximius, we've got Zoom. I've got to actually try and work out now. It's a real test of my chat knowledge of who is who, because obviously I recognize some of the images, but your names now, because YouTube has changed it to your @ has changed. A guy with the view, I believe, is Paul. Brian in the chat box, Claire. These are easier because when your @ the same as your YouTube name, it makes it much easier. Matt G is Matt says hello. Carl, Roy, we've got C Buckingham. Not sure C Buckingham. Apologies, that's on me. Huth Hula, I think is Carrie Ann. I think. Stevie, good morning to you. To Christopher, to Chanel Beds, good morning to Loga, good morning to Norris, Rob. We've got Mr. Knowledge in the chat box. Rich Carnu, we've got Trader Mike, I think, in the chat as well. Wilson, of course, we've got Dan, we've got Jose, we've got who else in the chat can we try and work out this morning? Zia Norman, also in our chat box today. Barry, Super Cyan. We've got Paul, we've got BizKid, we've got Mohammed and Shari. Some of these names are much easier to work out than others, but you will have to forgive me. UFO Marksman, is that Max Stays Black? It might be. I can't remember. You will have to absolutely get used to me using the @ thing rather than their names. Blame YouTube. Send a rude letter. That's what I think you should do. Anyway. We did have a comment saying, get on with it yesterday morning. So I'm conscious I've taken even longer in this morning's intro. Just a heads up, for those that don't like these long-winded intros, I do add chapters. So you can just click away from these intros. You don't have to listen to them. So there you go. And Maximius in the chat, YouTube didn't register my comment. I was first. It's not YouTube. It's StreamYard. StreamYard kind of ends up deleting some of the early comments if we've got loads of people in our chat box in the morning. So, Yeah, soup is Kilabuda. So there we go. We've got another one. We've worked out. It's like it's a weird kind of crystal maze type game of trying to work out who is who now in our chat boxes. Anyway, let's jump into today's story, shall we? We begin, as I mentioned, with a really positive, good piece of news for Arsenal and one of their players in particular, Ethan Nwaneri, winner of England under-21 European Championships. Fantastic win in the final over Germany. Definitely there was a scare. 2-0 up did England go in the game before being pegged back to 2-2 and it going into extra time before a goal in extra time. And then a very late work ethic to try and keep the lead and keep the victory. And of course, Ethan Nwaneri ended up getting getting that kind of, it's just a moment, I think. It's a moment for him. It's a moment, hopefully, for a lot of these players that are playing for a number of clubs, but in particular, Ethan, who, wasn't a regular starter in this 11, but always was coming off the bench, was always a feature in each of the games leading up to this, had to put in a huge effort to help see out the victory against Germany. So a massive congratulations to Ethan Nwaneri and, of course, the England team, Lee Carsley, on winning the under-21 European Championships. It's obviously a big, big sign of things to come for England. It's a big, big indication of the talent that's coming through. And we know, of course, the likes of Miles Lewis-Skelly, he's 18 years of age, could have easily been with this group, been with this team, has been playing with the England senior side. And Ethan Nwaneri's kind of had to, deal with the fact that his partner in crime is one of his best friends, has been playing at the England senior level, and he's had to make do with playing for the under-21s. But when you're lifting trophies and you're winning tournaments, that in itself is obviously a really positive thing. Now, the Arsenal team are expected to return for their pre-season training on the 7th of the week commencing the 7th of July. Now, it's worth adding to this now, of course, that with Ethan Nwaneri finishing his duties with England at the end of June, he is entitled to 3 weeks off, which means that he will likely join up with the Arsenal team while they are in Asia. That 3-week break will lead all the way up and through until they have already left on the 19th of July. So we may not see him in that game against Milan. We may have to wait to see him against Newcastle and, of course, Tottenham in the last 2 games of pre-season. But that 3-week entitlement that he is allowed now to go away and enjoy himself and relax and recuperate and recover from obviously a very, very lengthy season that's only just finishing now, which is when I say to people, the idea that Arsenal, getting 4 signings done, potentially 3 at least, hopefully 4 with Mosquera and talks continuing there over a deal, that we're actually not even finished with this season yet. We've still got Club World Cup going on. We've got this European Championship going on. This season's still going, believe it or not, and Arsenal still have already got 3 players wrapped up, potentially a 4th, and are obviously in talks over a couple more. So, yeah, it does give a little bit of context, I think, to where we're at. Arsenal did this really cool thing yesterday where they posted to their Instagram page in celebration of Miles Lewis-Skelly's brand new contract to get thoughts from the Arsenal players, actually themselves, as to what their thoughts are on their brand new, newly renewed teammate. And I wanted to read you some of these because this type of content is really what I live for. I posted the video that Miles Lewis-Skelly's family uploaded of the whole kind of contract congratulatory process. He's doing some training with Connie Cross as well, of course, from the women's team as well, who I believe they must be really good friends now because they spend a lot of time together, and it's good to see kind of those relationships build between the men, Cara Cooney-Cross, the youngster Australian international, of course, the women's team. It's good to see those relationships kind of develop between the men's and the women's sides, and those friendships, of course, blossom as well. So that was nice, I thought, as well, to see on that documentary. But yeah, Declan Rice said Miles basically they asked, what does Miles bring to the squad away from the pitch? And Declan Rice said that he's a proper character. David Raya said the way that he plays with no fear and his professionalism. Mikel Marino said, I love this. Arsenal were like, hey, Mikel, hope you're well. We're asking members of the squad a question about Miles. How would you describe Miles as a person? And he's like, hey, I'm great. Hope you are too. It's just like, you can imagine Mikel Marino being the most polite. I mean, I know him to be the very polite person that he is and a very solid English speaker. I've told you the story before about when he first signed for the club. He obviously did quite a bit of media at the first point that he signed, and the first thing he came over and he said, I apologise for my English, and then went on to use words like stimuli. I mean, you don't really need to apologise for your English if you're using high-level vocab quite like that. But he says, yeah, hey, I'm great. I hope you too. Miles, really nice kid, kind, always willing to learn and full of confidence. But the best one, I think, is the one that is on the screen for you all, which obviously is Gabriel Martinelli. He says, he makes me feel safe. He was asked about what it's like to play alongside Miles. He says, he makes me feel safe. He's a player with incredible qualities. And I thought that was really telling, actually, and a really insightful bit of info, really, from Gabriel. Because, well, in short, this guy is what we believe to be probably our best centre-half. Has been this last season. I know that injury at the end of the campaign was ended his season too early, but I think we looked at Gabriel as our best defender last season. And for him to say that he feels that 18-year-old Miles Lewis-Skelly, makes him feel safe, I think is a really, really interesting bit of kind of, well, just of storytelling around kind of the Arsenal defence and how indeed these players are viewed. And that's massive praise from Gabriel. So I thought that was really worth highlighting this morning. Into the transfer stuff, though, which I know is obviously the juicier things that we need to discuss. Fabrizio Romano, speaking on his YouTube channel, has been talking about Chelsea winger Noni Madueke. Now, of course, with Chelsea looking like they're going to be signing Gittins, of course, Bino Gittins from Borussia Dortmund. They've got a lot of wide players. Yes, Jadon Sancho no longer there. Noni Madueke, who is certainly a key figure in Thomas Tuchel's England squad right now, and certainly a key starting figure for the England team. Well, Madueke is considered to be a player that is under discussion internally at Arsenal. If Arsenal are not able to get kind of their high priority targets, the likes of Emirates, Eze, Rodrigo, etc., then they could indeed turn to Noni Madueke. And I know I can see people frantically typing into their keyboards right now, no more ex-Chelsea players. I'd rather a lot of players before we obviously went to Madueke. I'm not against it 100%. I've got a lot of time actually for Madueke. I think he's an underappreciated player in the Premier League, quite an underrated player, actually, when you look at his numbers. And I think in the right environment, he would absolutely explode onto the scene. And I don't think Chelsea is the right environment for any player. But I think it's worth pointing out that if Arsenal were to sign Noni Madueke this summer, I think it would it would go down as a disappointing signing in the context of what Arsenal have obviously been looking at, when you can go and get Eze's release clause for 68 million quid, or you can hopefully go and get your hands on a world-class player, Rodrigo. Ending up with Noni Madueke would not be the ideal scenario for Arsenal at all. But lastly, and our headline story of this Sunday morning show is that, according to Ben Jacobs, who has obviously very good contacts in Saudi Arabia and the Middle East when it comes to football, Ben Jacobs reporting Al Nassr could turn to Gabriel Martinelli if they are unsuccessful in their chase for Luis Diaz, the Liverpool Colombian international, of course, who has been their number one target during this window. But Martinelli is a player as well that the Saudi Arabian side are said to be considering. Of course, Arsenal are probably one of the only sides that have not benefited from the rise of Saudi Arabian money in the sport, and have not really sold or made much money at all. We know that Leandro Trossard was a player that Saudi clubs were also looking at, and Arsenal turned down a bid from them at the end, or after the end of the summer window in 2024. Now Gabriel Martinelli is being considered to be one of the players that is also being looked at. I always saw this as a window of adding. I saw this as a window where Arsenal need to find those talents that they're going to add to the team. Replacing existing players in the team was not something that I was really looking at from an Arsenal perspective of them doing during this window. I was hoping they would keep Trossard and Martinelli and then add another wide player to the team to give them that extra depth, that extra, just that necessary quality that they need across the different competitions that they're going to be playing in. Right, we're going to go to part 2 now, and some of your questions and more right after this. All right, this is part 2 of today's show. We're going to be jumping into the chat box and tackling some of your questions. So if you've got any that you would like to chuck in, now is the time to do that. Let me remind you, of course, to chuck a like on today's video. We do try and reach 1K every single day on the channel. We've been doing really, really well at that challenge, actually. If I have a quick look at some of our previous videos that we've been doing in the mornings, our show on Benjamin Sesko yesterday, well over 1,000 likes. So grateful to all the people that continue to support the channel. Absolutely fantastic. The show before that as well. In fact, this isn't even in order? This is showing my videos that aren't live. That's why. Yeah. So yesterday's show, like well over 1,200 likes. Day before that, 1,300. Day before that, 1,400. Amazing. The first day that we came back, 1,200. Thank you so much, as always, for all the people dropping a like on the video. You are all greatly appreciated. And I had someone send me a message yesterday actually saying, Tom, thank you so much for, by the way, always answering the questions of everyone in the chat, not just channel members. You know, for me, our members have been so supportive of the channel and they help make things like this and this all possible. But this is a community of everybody. You know, we don't prioritize questions over others. We answer questions from everybody. Speaking of which, here's a super chat from attacking AJ. Thank you, AJ. Says Martinelli out, Eze and Rodrigo in. I'm all for it. I mean, that's adding. You know, we talked there about the idea of that if you lose Martinelli, just bringing one winger in is probably not enough for Arsenal. We need to go into the market and make sure that we add, you know, the right players and add numbers. So that I wouldn't be against at all. The idea of Rodrigo coming in to replace Martinelli and then, of course, Eze coming in as well to add numbers. I'll be very, very up for that indeed. Aziz says, Tom, chances of Martinelli leaving 1 to 10. I'd go for a 3. I'm sitting on a 3. I was listening to the Arsenal Vision show that was excellent, by the way, with Elliot and Phil Costa. I recommend you go and give it a listen. Phil Costa's words on Christian Norgard I thought were particularly great. But they did a thing where they kind of said who they thought will be the wingers come the end of the window. And I think Elliot's was Rodrigo and Trossard, and I think Phil's was Rodrigo and Martinelli. So they both disagreed on who they think will be the winger that stays. They both think one will go, interestingly enough. So I still think it's a 3 for Martinelli. I'd be very surprised, and Arsenal would need a big, big deal to allow it to happen. At Tanisa says, Tom, do you think the July 1st window start date is why we're not seeing the big signings come through? I mean, it's the reason we're not seeing anybody confirmed as of yet. Of course, we know that Arsenal have wrapped up deals for a number of players already, but none of them have been announced. And yes, the reason as to why they've not been announced as of yet is because that July date is very important. Arsenal's business at the beginning of this window, getting Zubimendi, Norgard, Kepa, and hopefully Mosquera, of course, in for, you know, potentially under £100 million as a whole group, which is a really impressive piece of, you know, financial workings, really, to be able to do those deals for under £100 million, gives them a lot of room, you know, to do those big high-profile moves, potentially for a Sesko, potentially for a Gyökeres, potentially for a Rodrigo or an Eze. It gives them a lot of room. But July coming around does, I think, and will showcase an acceleration of the deals across the transfer window, not just with Arsenal. Jeffrey says, let's be honest, Arteta won't sell Martinelli. He's a big game player. Soup says, what would you class as money that you couldn't refuse? I think upwards of £60 million. I'd find it very difficult to turn that down. Whether or not Arsenal could even garner a fee of that level is obviously a bigger question. I'd really struggle to turn down 60 million. 50 million, I'd have a real long, hard think about it. £50 million for a player that we paid £5 million for, who isn't necessarily delivering on the level that we need him to. Hard to turn that down, but 60, I think, would be a no-brainer if Arsenal were offered that amount of money for the player. I mean, that's what ultimately we want to pay for Sesko and Gyökeres. So that kind of tells you where we're at with kind of the fees that are involved in this sense. Moving to John, who says, I wouldn't mind if Martinelli is sold. If we are getting Rodrigo, we should get Eze for Ødegaard's options, and we should get Kudus as a backup to Saka. Sean says, well, we need to replace Zinchenko, Jesus, Vieira, Lokonga, Tierney, Tomiyasu, who aren't good enough. So we need even more than just those that we've been replacing, let alone adding talent. Of course, there's also those that we're talking about that are coming through youth side as well. Tomiyasu is still here. Jesus is still going to be here. Players that are going to be leaving as Zinchenko, Vieira, Lokonga, Tierney. Of course, Lokonga and Vieira weren't in the squad last season. So They don't really count in terms of those numbers. Tierney wasn't really meant to be in the squad last season, but ended up being anyway. On that left-hand side, we've got Calafiori, we've got Miles Lewis-Skelly, we've got Kivior. When Tomiyasu's back, he can play there. Left centre-half, Kivior and Calafiori and Gabriel, of course. Right centre-half, Saliba and hopefully Mosquera. And then Timber and Ben White, as well as Tomiyasu when he's back on that right-hand side. We've got a lot of depth in defence. I think we're pretty good there. Midfield, Zubimendi, Norgard, Rice, Marino, Odegaard, Nwaneri, potentially Dauman as well, coming through the ranks. And if we add another player like an Eze, that would be great to have all those options for us next season. Lewis-Skelly maybe could also feature as a midfielder next season for Arsenal as well. And then the forward line, Bukayo Saka and Ethan Nwaneri are options on the right. But I think if you sign a wide player, you've potentially got the ability to use Martinelli there as well. And then up top, Havertz, Gabriel Jesus, and hopefully one of Sesko or Gyökeres will come into the team. And on the left, you've got Martinelli, you've got Trossard. You've also got, of course, a player that potentially could be joining. And we've spoken about Marino and Trossard. They can also play as centre-forward options as well. So we have a lot of depth, but we do need to add more players as well. Beauty Koketso says Rodrigo and Nwaneri and Eze as Saka's backup, or Rodrigo and Madueke and Nwaneri as Odegaard's backup. I think I'd go for the Rodrigo and Eze deals. That would be amazing to get done. Andy says you get 2 players per position. It's plenty enough. Right now, if Zinni and Vieira go and we get a number 9 and a left winger, it should be solid after Mosquera coming in. JB Cos says, if Sporting or Leipzig don't lower their price, do we just pay more or go elsewhere? Who is available? Duncan Castle says Nicholas Jackson. I've heard nothing to suggest that Arsenal are going to be looking at Nicholas Jackson in this window, for the record. But with Sesko and Gyökeres, I think it's a bit of a game of cat and mouse on that front. I think Arsenal are hoping that one of those clubs will slightly lower their demands, and in that case, then they will move for that respective player. I think we're kind of expecting in the next fortnight for there to be, kind of a significant kind of step in the right direction in the striker front for Arsenal. At least that's what we're hoping for. We're hoping that we can finally get kind of that breakthrough, if you like. Also, I'm hoping that the screen might be a little bit clearer for you today. The clarity, I've got this plugged in now to the node that's sitting in here, Ethernet-wise. It's kind of half Ethernet, half Wi-Fi. So I'm hoping the picture may be slightly clearer than it has been over the last few days without any interruptions or lagging. It's probably lagged while I've said that, but I'm hoping it's slightly better. Mason, happy birthday, my friend. I hope you're doing well. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day, whatever age you happen to be. Sending a lot of love from the channel and the community your way. Matt G says, the next fortnight, I want signings tomorrow, Todd. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. But I am in no way, despite the rumours and the timing of when Arsenal's deals have started to emerge again, I have nothing to do with what's going on. I was not on holiday with Andrea Berta. I was not having barbecues with Mikel Arteta. I was not chatting it up with Richard Garlick or Tim Lewis or Josh Kroenke. I'm sorry. I was enjoying myself on holiday. I was not worried about Arsenal. I was not in negotiations with anybody. It's just a coincidence. There is no conspiracy. Lisa says, Tom, do you think Christian Mosquera could really be another Saliba or Gabriel? Is Mosquera an improvement over Kivior? He's still raw. There's a lot of still to come from him. He's a very good young talent, 21 years of age. He's producing some fantastic numbers, particularly defensively. He's got some great potential in terms of his passing and physicality. It's just one of those deals that you do that adds depth, but also covers you off for the long-term future as well. Claire says, the timing does make you look suspicious, Tom. I think you need to come clean and drop the pretense. I don't know what you're talking about, Claire. I have absolutely no idea what this could mean. I really don't know. Soup says, you were in Canada. Jonathan David? Question mark? This is a lot of people were sending me messages of, are you chatting with Jonathan David over potential move? Interesting enough, that Jonathan David story, isn't it? In the sense that there isn't really a story, unless I've missed it. Really has not been too much on the front of Jonathan David. He's a free agent this summer. Has not really been mentioned much at all regarding clubs whatsoever. There's been a couple of like loose stories, loose links with Man United, Juventus. So potentially Juve will be the club that end up getting Jonathan David, but it's been very quiet on that front. Not much in the way of info. Claire says David can't give himself away at the moment. He's looking for a Goliath club, but is Juve that? They're not the side that they were. So let's see. M18 says, Tom, Arsenal just knows how to keep you waiting. It's heart-boggling. I've never heard that phrase before. Heart-boggling. Anyone else? I've not heard that before. Is that like it's frustrating, it makes your heart sink, it's annoying? Heart-boggling. Never heard that. Can't say I've heard that before, no. But yeah, I kind of, I get it. It's obvious why that Arsenal are, they want to get deals done. They want to get players through the door. They are being proactive. They are getting players in, and they're hoping to get more. Hopefully, we're only, maybe halfway or not even halfway as of yet. So let's wait and see. Jay says, mind-breaking, heart-boggling. Mind-boggling, I think, is obviously the phrase that I knew that. I was just waiting to see if anyone might explain what heart-boggling meant. But mind-boggling is obviously where I think they were going with that. Cannon Talk says, how long do you think the club will wait on Rodrigo before they turn to another target like Eze? I think they're willing to be pretty patient on Rodrigo. It'd be interesting to see if anybody else comes in for Eze, like a City or a Spurs. We know they've been interested before. If somebody else makes a move, if that would prompt Arsenal into maybe activating the release clause. If they're able to sell, say, a Fabio Vieira, and that frees up funds and Zinchenko, maybe they move for Eze and then still have the capacity to go for Rodrigo and Eze. The issue that they've got right now is that they don't know how much they're going to be able to spend after the centre-forward is signed. The centre-forward is the priority at the moment as discussions are going on alongside Mosquera, of course. They're the priorities to get done in these next kind of 2 to 3 weeks before pre-season starts in terms of those games. So until we know how much those players are going to cost, it's difficult to be able to then move for the wide player because the centre forward is the priority. There's no doubt about that. Arsenal, I expect to sign one of Sesko or Gyökeres during this window. I'd be surprised if it wasn't one of those. But yeah, let's see if indeed something else happens and we end up being surprised. I wrote a piece yesterday about how you never know. We could end up being surprised by a name that we have not even thought about or discussed once during this window. It could happen. Who knows? We'll see. Maximus says there is mind-boggling and there is heartbreaking. You combine both, you get heart-boggling. So fair enough. Mind-boggling and heartbreaking. If we're going down that line, I wouldn't say it's heartbreaking at this point. I think you've got to be pretty delighted with how Arsenal have acted in the market so far. It's been a very strong start to the window, very proactive beginning to the window. And now, of course, we're looking for them to do their marquee business. Now, July is just around the corner. Roy says, if your heart is boggling, I suggest calling the doctor for some advice. Jay says, the fact that we haven't sacked Arteta after finishing second 3 seasons in a row is both mind-hearting and boggling breaking. I don't like where this conversation is going now. We're getting too inventive. Derek says, good morning, Tom. Viewers, thanks for the content from Irish Gooner in Liverpool. Thanks, mate. Tony says, Tom, if we get Rodrigo, where does that leave Trossard? I'm not a Trossard fan. He won't be happy. No, I mean, I think he'll understand kind of his situation at the club. I think he'll understand his standing in the team. And I think he'll understand that, of course, while maybe being on a better paid deal, that Arsenal need to bring in reinforcements. They need to bring in quality, and that could mean that it makes his place in the team trickier to find more regular minutes. Just a quick thing, of course, more of a YouTube update than anything else, and I've been a bit critical of YouTube recently. You may have seen my tweet yesterday. One of the best updates that YouTube has made in a while is that when you're in a comment section, I don't know if it works on a live chat box. I've checked it in like the comment sections in particular. I've not checked it in a live chat box. So let's just see if this works as well. But I don't think it does work. So in the comment section of shows, whenever you like finish watching the show, if you leave a comment, tell me what you think. I'm pretty good at responding to as many of them as I can. You can actually click on a person's name now and see like their most recent comments that they've left, not just the comment that they have left now, but their most recent comments on the channel. So you can actually get a good idea about kind of the tread, the what's the word? The trend, not the trend, the history, I guess, of kind of what type of comments are being left. So you can kind of differentiate between who are the trolls and who are actually genuinely leaving well thought out comments, even if it's critical or praising or whatever. So just want to give people that little bit of insight. It's a really good. Claire says you could do that before. I've only just realised. So if it is an old thing, I'm still seeing it as a new one. And I really do appreciate it because it does really help. I've also noticed recently, like in the chat box that we have our conversations, I pretty much read mostly every single comment that you can see. You know, sometimes we miss some questions out just through accidental reasons, nothing intentional. But I have noticed a lot more that the most critical comments get left after the show finishes going live. So within like the hour of the show finishing, there's like this hour where the most critical comments get left, or kind of the most critical in terms of not me, in terms of more so Arsenal, get left in like the first hour after the show is finished. It's really strange. And also when you ask those people, of course, any extra questions, they never get back to you. So it's an interesting, I don't know if it's like an AI thing or a bot thing or what, I don't get it. But it's I've noticed this kind of trend in the last hour that like in the first hour after the show finishes being live, where you get the most critical negative comments. So I find that quite interesting. Faceless says, hi, Tom. Have you heard anything on Lookman? No, I haven't heard anything on Lookman at all. I know there was obviously that link yesterday, but I've not, other than Arsenal, obviously. He's a player that Arsenal have been interested in the past. I'm sure he's a player the club have still got on a list, but I've not heard anything to suggest there's any difference in what we know at this point in time. Nicholas says, was just gifted the new 25-26 home shirt from my fellow bar staff as a belated Father's Day gift. My father passed away unexpectedly in February, and the past months have been hard. People are good. Nicholas, I send you all the love and well wishes in the world, and I'm sorry for your loss, mate. I truly am, and it's great to see that you've got some fantastic people around you that are clearly very aware of what you've been going through and have tried to brighten your days somewhat. So what a fantastic story. Really good to hear. And I love those little kind of gems that you get in these comment sections today and these telling of these stories, which Nicholas has been very open in letting us know. Thank you, mate. Rahul says, Tom, who is your left-wing target if Rodrigo is not available? I'd move for Eze just in terms of what he could bring in a number of different positions. So, yeah, Eze for me, still very much that guy. Jack says, what are your thoughts on John Duran heading to Turkey? Yeah, strange move that. I'm curious to see how much they end up paying Al Nassr for John Duran. I think it's a little bit of an indictment of the Saudi situation. Of course, they've tried to bring in younger players, Gabri Veiga, John Duran being two high-profile examples. Both of them have left the Saudi league now after a very short period of time there. So this attempt to kind of buy some of Europe's younger players, it's not particularly working, I don't think. They earn a little bit of money, well, quite a significant amount of money in a short period of time, and then hop back to Europe. And that appears to be the case with Duran now, and of course, following that of Gabri Veiga. Temi says, Tom, can fans get a restraining order on behalf of the club against a player in order to prevent them from signing Q Madueke and Kunku? No, you can't. Sorry, Temi. Not something that's a feasible one. Owen says, in honour of the release of Season 3 of Squid Game, if the Arsenal squad entered Squid Game, who's your money on making it through? It's a really good question. Who has got... Obviously, you need quite a lot of... You need intelligence, you need physicality, you need athleticism, you need ruthlessness. There's a lot of traits you need to succeed in Squid Game. It's a really tough one. William Saliba immediately came to mind. Declan Rice, maybe. I see some of you putting Declan Rice in the chat. Lewis-Skelly's a good shout. He's got his head screwed on. He knows what he's thinking about. I guess the first one where you like, with the robot turning its head and stuff, and if you miss it, you reach an unfortunate end. Someone who's really quick, you couldn't really have someone necessarily slow. Although saying that, it's just about timing and quick responses. Havertz, Ben White, people are saying Gabriel. So there's a lot of different. Timber's a good shout. Julian Timber. Arteta, of course, will win it. Actually, he probably bottle it at the end. But when it comes to Julian Timber, I think that's probably the best shout I've seen so far. Yeah, I'm going to go with Timber. Plus, he'd probably read a Bible verse before each game, which would bless him for each game, of course, and give him a little bit of a fortune before each task. So, yeah, we'll go with Jury and Timber. What a nice way to end today's show on a little bit of a light-hearted question. Let us know in the comment section who you think would win Squid Game if they were an Arsenal player and why, and what your reasoning is. The reasonings are way better than the name. It's always best to kind of hear what the reasonings are. Ben White, because of the dark art, says Paul. Not a bad shout. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. If you could drop a like on the video, I would really appreciate it. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your Sunday and your weekend. I'll be back with you bright and early tomorrow morning, breaking down, of course, all the latest Arsenal news from the weekend. And, of course, if you've not yet watched it already, go give a listen to our episode with Nepenthes that we had yesterday afternoon. If you've missed that, I know some of you don't always manage to catch our episodes that we release sometimes in the afternoon, but that show did go out yesterday. The title of it, of course, being Signed Them Both, Victor Gyökeres and Benjamin Sesko, with a good friend of the channel, Nep. So go and give that a listen if you haven't done so already. Go listen to our tactical breakdown on Christian Mosquera with John Driscoll as well. Another really good listen. It's the tagged video on the channel, so rather easy to find, I think. So thank you to you all for listening. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. Enjoy the hour of negativity to follow. And as always, up the Arsenal.